Welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're going to dig into two technologies that solve the exact same problem, turning printed stuff into digital data, but they do it in completely opposite ways. We're talking OCR versus MICR, and trust me, the difference is actually pretty wild. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about this? You pop a check into an ATM, and a machine just instantly knows the account numbers? You know, it feels like magic, but it's not. It's actually the perfect way to kick off our look into these two technologies today. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the fundamental problem here, the core challenge that got people inventing this stuff in the first place. The problem was pretty simple. We were just drowning in paper, books, invoices, bank records, you name it. And getting all that information into a computer meant someone, a person, had to sit there and type it all out. And that, as you can imagine, was super slow, it cost a ton, and was just asking for typos. The real challenge was, can we build a machine that reads like a person, but way faster and more accurately?
So what's the first solution? Well, that brings us to OCR, the optical reader. You can think of this one as the versatile do-it-all generalist of the character reading world.
OCR stands for Optical Character Recognition, and it basically does exactly what it says on the tin. It uses light, or optics, to recognize characters. If you've ever used an app on your phone to scan a document and then you could actually copy and paste the text from the picture, yep, you've used OCR. It's the tech that turns a picture of words into actual words your computer can work with.
So how does this actually work?
Well, it's kind of like a three-step dance. First off, a scanner takes a really detailed picture of the page. Then, and this is the magic part, special software analyzes that picture. It looks for shapes and patterns that it's been trained to recognize as letters and numbers. And with modern AI, this stuff is getting scary good at reading even my messy handwriting. And finally, it converts those shapes it recognized into standard digital text, something like ASCII, that basically any program can understand. And honestly, this is the superpower of OCR. It's so incredibly flexible. I mean, because it's just looking at shapes, right? You can train it to recognize huge variety of fonts, and it really doesn't care what kind of ink you used. It is a true jack of all trades. All right, so if OCR is our generalist, what's on the other side of the coin? Well, let's talk about MICR, the magnetic reader. This is our super focused specialist, and it takes a completely different approach. MICR, or magnetic ink character recognition, is a whole different beast. The name gives it away, right? It's all about magnetic ink. This technology isn't just looking at the characters, it's literally reading a magnetic signal. And its main job? Handling millions and millions of financial documents, like checks with near perfect accuracy. The process here is so different from what we just saw. First, the numbers on a check are printed with this special ink that's got iron oxide in it. When you feed that check into a reader, the machine first zaps it to magnetize that ink. Then a little read head passes over the characters and actually detects the unique magnetic signal from each one. It's not identifying a shape, it's reading a magnetic footprint. So you might be asking, why go to all this trouble with special ink and magnets? Well, it really comes down to two things: security and reliability. Because of those magnetic properties, the characters are super hard to forge or alter. Plus, the reading process is incredibly fast and isn't really affected by stuff like stains or marks on the check. When you're processing millions of checks a day, that's exactly what you need. Okay, so we've met our two contenders. Now let's put them head to head and really break down where they differ. I think the best way to think about this is with a simple analogy. OCR is like a scholar who can wander into any library and read pretty much any book on the shelf. But MICR, that's the security guard at a high-security building. They're not reading every book. They are laser-focused on reading one specific type of ID, and they do it flawlessly, every single time. This table really lays it all out, doesn't it? You can see the fundamental difference right there at the top: optical versus magnetic. And that one core difference, light versus magnetism, pretty much explains everything else that follows. Because OCR uses light, it can handle any old ink. But MICR's reliance on magnetism means it needs that special iron oxide ink. And that leads to the biggest point of contrast: font support. Yeah, if you remember one thing from this explainer, let it be this: it's all about the fonts. OCR's flexibility with fonts is what makes it so great for general, everyday use. But for MICR, the fact that it's limited to just a couple of special fonts like E13A and CMC7, that's not a weakness, that's its greatest strength. That's what makes it secure. You can't just type out these numbers in Microsoft Word. You need the specific controlled font. Okay, so we've got these two very different tools. It only makes sense that they have two very different jobs, right? Let's take a look at where you'd actually find these technologies out in the wild. So the OCR generalist, it's literally everywhere. Turning giant filing cabinets full of paper into searchable digital files, that's OCR. Those automatic license plate readers on the highway, OCR again. Even some cars use it for traffic sign recognition. But the MICR specialist, you're almost exclusively going to find it in one place, the banking industry, where it's just chugging away, processing checks with incredible speed and efficiency. You know, when you boil it all down, this is really what it's about. Both of them have the same mission, to bridge that gap between the physical, printed world and the digital world. But they take completely different paths to get there. OCR's path is all about making information accessible. MICR's path is all about making transactions secure.
And that leaves us with a pretty interesting final thought. In a world where we're all using digital payments and writing fewer and fewer paper checks, the job of our specialist, MICR, might actually be shrinking. But the work of our generalist, OCR, is absolutely exploding. So it really makes you wonder, right? What other physical objects in our world are just out there waiting for a machine to learn how to read them?